Absolutely. So we are week 3. It's the 18th of February, 2025, and we're talking about procrastination. So I think, Tash, we can kick off, even though we've got lots of people who haven't joined yet. But let's start because they can always get the recording. So,
Absolutely. I think that that's a great idea. The last thing we want to do is procrastinate.
yes, exactly. Green. We go from current slide.
Yeah, so welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this evening, which is our third coaching session that we've been doing. So welcome to your Neurodiversity Thrive coaching session, which is, and I say the reason that it's yours is that we craft these sessions for you. And if there's any topics that you guys would like us to cover, you're more than welcome to send them through and email them to us, and then we can definitely put them on the agenda to cover them at a later stage. So we're delighted to have you guys here this evening, and we're delighted to share this time with you. We're going to move on to the next slide. And most of you know us, but for those of you who don't, Tracy is a neurodiversity coach. She's founder of the School of Life, and she's an expert on neurodiversity and ADHD. And I'm an ADHDer, a mom of ADHD. I'm an agile coach and a neurodiversity advocate, and we're here to help you unlock your strengths and to thrive on your own terms as we help coach and teach skills to support neurodiversity. And we often get asked why we set up this coaching circle. And the reason is that neurodiversity isn't very well supported. There isn't somewhere where people can go and they can get the tools and the tips that they need in order to empower themselves to, lead the fulfilled lives and do all the things that they want to do. So, because often ADHD and neurodiversity is misunderstood, and we wanted to provide a safe and empowering space for people to get together and to share and to learn and to connect. So, because we all deserve to thrive, not just survive, and that's why we've set up this coaching circle. So, moving on to the next slide. Tonight we're going to be talking about time management and overcoming procrastination with ADHD. And so I'm going to hand over to Tracy, who's going to take us through the coaching for this evening. So over to you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Just to remind everybody that you're more than welcome to ask questions, just pop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat so that I can bring them up when we have a pause. And yeah, let's go. So over to you, Tracy. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tash. Okay, so just what we're going to go through tonight, we're going to do a quiz. Okay. Homework from last week's session. I don't know there were that many of us that were on last week's session, so I think we'll give that a skip just for the sake of time. We're going to do the procrastination quiz. Then, what is procrastination? Why do we procrastinate? And then, obviously, the most important thing is how do we overcome procrastination? So let me just share now the. Okay. Can you all see this
Yes.
poll? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The polls come up.
So there's 10 questions here. So you need to, it's a single choice per question. So I'd like you all to answer it. And then we can see at the end, okay, what's your basic, what do you believe procrastination is really all about? Okay, so the first question is, and you can obviously just, you can tick it in the little block there. So what is time blindness in ADHD? So is it difficulty perceiving time and deadlines accurately? Or is it a strategy to improve time management? So is it a strategy to improve time management or the ability to hyper focus on multiple tasks? So what do you think it is? And then just you can actually click on it. Are you able to do that, Tash?
I'm just checking. Yes, I can click on it and I can click on the answers, and then I'm sure by the time I'm finished clicking, I can click submit. Yep. So
Cool.
once I've answered two questions, I can click submit, but I'm going to answer all the questions
Yes.
and we'll see how many I get right out of your pop quiz.
Excellent. Okay.
Quite cheeky, Tracy, starting the session with a pop quiz, hey, keeping us on our toes,
Good. Okay.
seeing if we paid attention in the previous sessions.
I think it's night, everybody's tired, and I think just to have this to start off will just sort of energize us again. Okay, so the next question is, how can the Pomodoro technique help ADHD for procrastination? One is by structuring work into short timed intervals or making the list more complex, or by encouraging perfectionism. You just got to click on there. Okay, and you're done. We'll move on to number three. And number three is, what is task paralysis in ADHD? Overanalyzing a task to the point of inaction, completing tasks faster under pressure, or avoiding tasks by engaging distractions. Okay. What role does dopamine play in ADHD procrastination? So it impacts motivation and reward processing. It helps with memory recall. It prevents impulsivity. Like that. 5. Why do ADHD individuals often wait until the last minute to complete a task? They need urgency to trigger motivation. They enjoy working under pressure. They prefer structured deadlines. How does body doubling help ADHD individuals stay on task? By working alongside another person for accountability, by performing tasks in complete silence, by alternating between two tasks at once. Okay. Then what is a pre-commitment strategy to reduce procrastination? Telling others about your goals for accountability, waiting until motivation strikes, avoid deadlines to reduce pressure. So that's the third one. So waiting until motivation strikes or avoiding deadlines to reduce pressure. 8, what is temptation bundling? Pairing an unpleasant task with a more enjoyable activity, avoiding distractions completely, only working on tasks when feeling motivated. 9, what is a 5-minute rule? Okay, taking a 5-minute break every hour, finishing tasks within 5 minutes. And then 10, what is one small change you can make today to improve productivity? Set a timer for shorter tasks, identify your biggest distractions, plan out your schedule for the day. Has everybody got all of those questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to end the poll so we can see what you have and get the results. Okay. We've only got 4 people who
It looks like there's a lot of agreement there.
So difficulty perceiving time with deadlines accurately. How can the Pomodoro technique help ADHD procrastination? By structuring work into short, 25 minutes, 5 minutes break. Correct. What is task paralysis in ADHD? Overanalyze a task to the point of inaction. Okay, that's the right answer there. What role does dopamine play in ADHD procrastination? It impacts motivation and the reward processing. Correct. Why do ADHD individuals often wait until the last minute to complete tasks? They need urgency to trigger motivation. Yeah, absolutely. That's the lastminute.com, and that helps us get things done. Then how does double bodying help ADHD individuals? By working alongside one another for accountability. So that definitely helps. Because we're people pleasers as well, having somebody, we don't want to let them down. And the double bottling helps in many other ways, especially like for anything, for work, for exercise, for lots of different things. Then what is a pre-commitment strategy to reduce procrastination? Telling others about your goals for accountability. Again, the accountability comes in. What is temptation bundling? Pairing an unpleasant task with a more enjoyable activity. Correct. Okay, the 5-minute rule is taking a 5-minute break every hour. Correct. What is one small change you can make today to improve productivity? So there we've got one saying set a timer for a shorter task. Identify your biggest distractions. Plan out your schedule for the day. So it can be a combination of all of those, but planning out your schedule is important because then at least you have a guideline, a skeleton of exactly what you need to do. And that is important. Okay, so we can share the results. We need to, and then we're going to start with, can you all see now this page here, which is why do we procrastinate?
Yes, we can see that one. I just had to close my poll, but now I can see the presentation.
Okay. So procrastination is the intentional and habitual postponement of an important task that should be done now. It's fostered by habit. So in order for us to break procrastination, first of all, we need to understand why we procrastinate. Okay. And then what habit can we replace it with? And the reason why it's so difficult for somebody with ADHD is because we delay tasks despite the negative consequences. And that's a lot to do with all our executive functions, the 7 skills that it affects. So that's the time management, the task initiation, the impulsivity, okay, the planning, the prioritizing. So it has a lot to do with that. And also, so a lot of people say, but you're lazy, or this one's lazy, or my child's lazy, or my husband's lazy. And we struggle with internal motivation. So we need external motivation. So it looks like we're lazy, but we struggle with the dopamine. We don't have enough dopamine regulation. So it's hard for us to focus and complete tasks and prioritize unless we have learned the skills. And remember, this is all about being self-aware. When you're self-aware, you can reflect, correct, and manage. But because we also have low self-awareness, it's difficult for us to manage this. And procrastination is a really big thing. But there's task strategies as to why we procrastinate. So if you think about what are the things that make you procrastinate, okay? And we'll go into them a little bit deeper later on. But maybe you want to just pop them into the message into the chat as to why do you procrastinate? Is it because the task is unpleasant and you just don't like it and you don't want to do it? Or is it because it's a complex task or a project and you feel overwhelmed? So when you look at it, the feeling you get immediately is that this is too much. So I had a client and he's a lawyer, and I went into his office and because he's a big procrastinator. And it was tripping him up. I mean, he had his own practice and doing very well, but procrastination was definitely tripping him up. And then I said to him, okay, so I'm going to sit behind your desk. What you're going to do is you're going to pretend I'm not here. You're going to go out and then you're going to come into your office and do what you would normally do. And I'm just going to observe. And he says, what will the other people in the office think? I said, it doesn't matter. Forget about them. So he went out the door and he carried his briefcase and he walked back in. He said, I think I'm loony. He says, it doesn't matter. Don't worry. Just focus on what we're saying. And he walked into his office, put his briefcase down, okay, put in his computer. And the next minute he got up and I said, what happened? So he says, I saw my emails and it became so overwhelming that I had to get up and go and make some coffee. So the feeling of being so overwhelmed and anxious by seeing the emails, immediately he had to try and regulate that emotion. So what he would do is he would move and go make coffee and go talk to a whole lot of people just to feel better. So it's a natural response is when you are overwhelmed like that, you're going to go and move away from that feeling. Okay. And that's where procrastination can come in. So I said to him, okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to actually just sit there. Okay. And then we'll go through the different strategies just now, but he started using a few of them and it really worked. Then indecision, people procrastinate because they can't make up their minds. They don't know what to choose or what to do. And we make about 35,000 decisions every day, but they're based on there's a format that you go through subconsciously when you make a decision. But the most important thing I think is to realize is that when you make a decision, is a decision based on focus or is it based on feeling? And a lot of the time, people don't make decisions because it's based on feeling and not focus. So sometimes, and that's not always, okay, this is just general. It's helpful to know I need to make a decision, but I haven't made the decision because it's based on a feeling. And if I take my attention and put it onto the actual focus, it's sometimes easier to make a decision. Then we also don't we also procrastinate because of fear of failure or a lack of self-confidence. And we already feel that we're inadequate in certain things. We don't have the confidence, so we will delay because we don't want that feeling. And that's also exacerbated by our RSD, the rejection sensitive dysphoria. So anything that where we can possibly fail at, we don't want that feeling, so we will procrastinate. Boredom is a big thing, lack of interest, we procrastinate. Perfectionism, because we want to get it perfectly correct, so we will procrastinate. And I always say there's no such thing as perfectionism. It's a swear word in my life. There's a thing called excellence. We strive to be the best version of me that I can be, but we're not perfect. There's no ceiling to being better. I mean, we can all be better. We can all do more all the time. So perfectionism isn't real. We strive for excellence. Excellence is I want to be the best version of me. We can also procrastinate due to hostility towards your boss or your teacher. It's that ODD that sometimes can kick in and say, I'm not doing this because you told me to do it. Okay. Or we can also procrastinate because we're distracted, there's a lack of focus and unimportant tasks. So those are generally some of the task strategies as to why we procrastinate. Can you pop it into the chat as to why do you think you procrastinate? What are those things? Or are there other things that aren't on here that make you procrastinate?
We've got some great feedback in the chat. So Trevor was saying it's a lack of perceived interest and distraction. Sam was saying complex tasks and indecision. Diane says, Therese, it's complex tasks. Diane is lack of focus. Session is unimportant tasks. Trevor also added that sometimes an action due to overwhelm by a number of tasks. And then I added that for me, it's just overwhelm. The task feels too big. It's too complicated. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do, even though I haven't even tried. I haven't even sat down and just started it, because the reality is that when I do sit down and I just start it, it's not that complicated. It kind of starts to unravel and starts to show itself and sort itself out once I start. But before I do procrastinate, yeah. I don't know if anybody else on the call has any comments that they want to add.
So it is important we understand why. Okay. And then we've got to try and change it is about having the habits. So we need to change our habits. So we're going to go into each one, as in, I think a big one though is because after COVID, a lot of people are working from home. And if you're ADHD, your distractions are very real. So if you're going to be working from home, make sure you tailor make your environment to actually support your focus. So you go in, if you're supposed to be from 8 to 5, you go and sit at your desk and you make sure you're there at 8 and you only leave at 5. So you need your own rules. We don't like other people telling us rules, but we need to put our own rules in place in order for us to be optimal in what we do. Obviously, distractions, remove them, anything that can distract you. And the phone is such a huge distraction. Okay, so you need to treat your home office as an office. So the same rules that apply to the office, you make sure it is the same rules that apply in your home office. And this is just a general rule. Obviously, there's exceptions to this. But this is how I work. Before I used to COVID, I used to work from Dr. Jeeva's rooms when he was alive. And then I work from home in my home office. But I need to treat it as an office. So that's a way that actually that sort of scaffolding, that sort of mindset for me works best. Okay. And then obviously it's to tell your family, don't disturb you when you in your home office, like they wouldn't disturb you at work. Okay. So these are the different task strategies and what you can do. So if you are procrastinating because it's unpleasant tasks, there's a thing called the 5-minute rule. There's also one, the 10-minute rule. So I had a client who came and saw me, big ADHD procrastinator, and he says his wife is sick of him. She wants to divorce him because his garage, the garage, he's got 3 garages and it's just stuffed with things. And she's really had it. So I said, but that's okay. Let's just try the 10-minute rule. So he says, what's a 10-minute rule? So I said, well, what you do is you do the task for 10 minutes. Okay. And if you want to, you can continue, but every day for 10 minutes, you need to do the task. And generally, it's better to do it when you're freshest. So it'll be early in the morning. Some people are nocturnal, so in the evening. And he says, are you sure? I said, absolutely. I said, you know what we're going to do? You're going to take a video of me. So a video of the garage before you start the task and 10 minutes later. I said, but just when you get home, just take a video of the garage so I know what what the big goal is. And my word, I would never have said the 10-minute rule if I saw it. He had like 16 broken motorbikes and it was like, oh my soul. I don't know. But 3 months later, every day we were persistent. And that consistency really, really does help when you've got to check in that accountability. Every 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., he would send me before, like the table of what he's going to tackle, and 10 minutes, sometimes half an hour later, he would send me afterwards. And he got through clearing up that garage, which saved his marriage. So even though it seems overwhelming, you can actually do a lot in 10 minutes. So, and that's also where that time blindness comes in. And I'll say, okay, so I'll say to a client, I say, what can you do in 5 minutes? Not much. So you know what? I can. And I put a timer on. I said, I put my timer on. I said, I can go quickly into the kitchen, unpack the dishwasher, make myself some tea, pour some cereal, and be back at my desk at 3:46. And I time myself. And I'm getting faster and faster. And I haven't broken any dishes. You can do a lot in 10 minutes. You can do a lot in 5 minutes. Okay. But we don't seem to realize it unless you actually start working with the time and you understand your time sense. So the 10-minute rule or the 5-minute rule is really effective. You choose what works for you. But I mean, if the motivation is low, then try start with a 5-minute rule. Then temptation bundling. So pair the task with something enjoyable, like listening to music or having a treat afterwards. So what I say, I make rules for myself because I don't like other people giving me rules. So Tracy, you cannot look at an email. You cannot look at your phone. You may not get up to move from your desk until you finish this presentation. And then you can go make yourself some coffee and you can have a rusk and you can go to the toilet. And that's what I do. Even though I really want to go to the toilet, you will stay there, Tracy. You will stay and you will do it until it's done. And that's actually very effective, okay, because it makes me go fast. Okay, then complex tasks or projects. So you can break it down. I always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you move a mountain? One stone at a time. It's building momentum. And that's the whole thing, 1% better every day in 365 days, you're going to be 7 times better than you are now. So you break the tasks down. Otherwise, you're too overwhelmed and you're anxious into small, manageable steps. Okay. And then you do it. You focus on one at a time. Don't think about, I've got this whole book to read. Say, okay, I've got 2 pages to read today. And that's manageable. You need to meet yourselves where you're at. And that's something we don't do. We don't meet ourselves where we're at. Okay. We expect ourselves to read the whole book, but that's not where we're at. Where we're at is here. Where we're at is 1 page. So let's do 1 page. And then the 1 page will become 2 pages, and the 2 pages will become 4 pages. Okay. The minute we go like this, I need to read the whole book and read it now because we like to do things very quickly and we want that instant gratification, but it doesn't work. So meet yourself where you're at. Very, very important. Then reverse engineering, start with the desired outcome and work backwards to identify steps to get there. So that's another way you can and say, okay, so I need to finish the book. I have 30 days to finish the book. So how many pages are in the book? Okay, and I do that with a lot of my students, university students and high school students and that. I say, okay, so you've got an exam. These are the exams. So I take a planner and I plan the dates they've got the exam. And then I say, okay, so for science, what do we need to study? And we need these 5 chapters. Okay, so how many pages is in this chapter? How long is it going to take us? And then I block it all the way back to now. So we start now. Then all they have to do is just worry about today. Today, I just need to do chapter 1 in science. And I need to do a chapter 1 in geography, for example. So it's not overwhelming, but they know that if they do that every single day, they're going to be able to really nail their exams very well. Then indecision, set a timer for decisions. Give yourself a fixed amount of time, 10 minutes to decide or move forward. Limit your options, narrow choices to 2 or 3 to prevent decision paralysis. So it's like I go to a restaurant, I never know what to eat. Okay, so Tracy, you can have beef, chicken, or fish. Okay, and you have 5 minutes to decide. Okay, so I get the criteria. And then, okay, I'm going to do beef. All right, now you've got another 5 minutes to decide. And if you don't, you're going to go like this and just choose anything. Okay, if I haven't done it in 5 minutes. But it's just having that where you actually have criteria for making a decision and then obviously putting it on timer. And you can say it to somebody, okay, so with the next 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to eat. So another one is a fear of failure or lack of confidence. So we strive for progress, not perfection. There is no such thing as perfection. Remember, life is about movement. When you're moving, you're growing. When you're growing, you're progressing. When you're progressing, you're happy. Progress equals happiness. So any bit of progress is brilliant. And you build progress over time and you will eventually get there. Unhappy people have stopped moving. They're not progressing. Anybody you know who's unhappy, okay, or who's negative or who's depressed, they've stopped moving. They've stopped progressing. So we strive progress. We only want progress. Every day we want progress. We don't strive for perfection. Okay, then visualize success. Imagine yourself completing the task successfully to build confidence. So remember, clarity is, the more clear you have, the clarity you have, the easier it is to move towards something. Okay, and we think in pictures. So have a picture of what you want. And that is easier for you then to move through it. So lack of interest. You can gamify your task. So turn it into a challenge or race against the clock. So that's what I do with the dishwasher to unpack it. Okay, I gamify it. And I add in a few other things. And then I time myself. And I try and beat my own time. And I beat my own time. And I'm so proud of myself because then I can have 2 biscuits instead of 1 biscuit. So however you want to do it, try and gamify it in a way that really helps you get that boring task you don't want to do done. Find personal meaning, connect the task to a bigger goal, or reward yourself upon completion. And that really does take thinking sometimes, because unpacking a dishwasher, I don't know about meaning, but I suppose it is having a clean home and having integrity when people come and everything's nice and tidy and neat and I can think correctly. And yeah, so you've got to find, that's exploring. You know, it depends on what the task is, but you can explore and you can find personal meaning in it. Then perfectionism, which we strive for excellence. We do never strive. There is no such thing as perfect, but we can set a time limit and give yourself a deadline to complete the task. So you're going to do the best that you can and get to good enough. Okay. Because good enough is great. It's that the L'Oreal principle, the 80-20 principle. Then done is better than perfect. Remind yourself that finishing imperfect work is better than not finishing it at all. Because that is something we really struggle with. We're great at starting. But if it's open-ended, a lot of the time we don't finish it. We find if there's a start and an ending to it. Okay. And we focus on the end result but we actually need to focus on the process. Okay. Because the process is what will eventually get us to the end result. If we think of the end result, sometimes it can be so overwhelming that we don't get there. So focus on the process every day. In some small way, my life is getting better. Every day I've read that one page. It's building momentum. Okay, then hostility towards your boss or teacher. So you can reframe the task, shift focus from who assigned it to me on how it benefits you, benefits your skills and career. So reframing is a really helpful in everything. So it's like flipping the script. So you're driving home and there's an accident and everybody's hooting and you're going to be late. Immediately you can reframe it and flip it and say, I'm so glad I'm not in the accident. I'm so glad I am going to be able to go home and see my family. I'm so glad I'm in a safe car. Okay. So also it's the same as tasks. Flip it around and say, how can this work for me, not against me? Because developing that attitude of how things can work for me, not against me, is very helpful. Then use it as motivation, see it as a challenge to prove your capability despite the situation. Then distraction, lack of focus, the Pomodoro technique. So I'm sure a lot of you know about that. You work for 25 minutes and it's focused with 5 minutes short break. But sometimes that can also be a problem because it's difficult to get back then. So that's when your rules come in. This is my rule. Okay, once I've had a 5-minute break, I set a timer. The timer goes off and I'll go straight back to what I'm doing. Okay, you remove distractions, and I'm sure you all know what your distractions are. And a lot of the time it's a phone. So what you do is I've even said during exam times, I tell my clients, I said, take Instagram off your phone, uninstall it. Take Facebook off your phone, uninstall it. Make it difficult for yourself. Okay. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to break that habit as well and not be tempted. And then you can always install it back once you get your results and you've done well as a reward. And I actually make them uninstall it when they're with me. And they don't always like me, but it works well and we get the results we want. So at the end of the day, I say it's short-term pain, long-term gain. Then unimportant tasks. Okay, so you can categorize your task with urgency and important, or eliminate and delegate the unimportant ones. That's what we did last week as to how to prioritize the different tasks. And then batch similar tasks, group small non-essential tasks and tackle them all at once to save time. Or you just put them all on a sheet of paper and you say, okay, so how long do I think it's going to take me to do these tasks? And you list them and you say, we like color. So you use a green highlighter for 5 minutes, an orange highlighter for 10 minutes, just these ones here. Okay. Or I also use colored paper. So colored paper also helps a lot when there's a whole lot of different tasks. So, see? Okay. And color keeps it interesting. And then I use for example, the blue. That'll be for less than 15 minutes. Then you've got the green for less than 30 minutes, yellow, less than an hour, then the orange for half a day, and then the pink for a day. And I just take it off and attach it. So when I look at it and I think, I've got an hour, so I can quickly take off 4 15-minute things I need to do, tasks I can clear off. Okay, and that definitely does help. Remember, meet yourself where you're at. So you can also make it fun. It doesn't have to be this horrible thing that you have to do. So, okay, so I need to do this. I'm uncomfortable. Nothing grows in my comfort zone. I don't want to do it. Okay, but this is how I also build resilience. You build resilience and you build inner power, you build inner strength by doing things you don't want to do. Anything you're reluctant to do, you do immediately for the sake of inner strength. And that also builds it, and you can use it for unimportant tasks. So it's character building. You can reframe that. I'm character building. I'm building resilience or determination. So those are the different task strategies. Questions. Anybody got
I think
questions?
they're great. I think they're great, and I think there's so many of them that that we could use that can really, really help. And for me, it's a case of like jumping between them to really find what works. Because sometimes, if I use the same one, I can become bored of that one, and then I just ignore it. So, so I find that having a selection of those tools to help, like really does work.
Yeah, they're saying procrastination is a thief of all time. And I just think
Mm.
we all on a timeline. We all of us are on a timeline. We need to just have a real good check-in with ourselves and say, okay, we don't know how long a timeline is. And with us being distracted and all that, we're wasting, so we're diluting our attention on things that do we really want to dilute our attention on that? So it's like that's just do it. Screw it, just do it. Okay. And the minute you just do it and it becomes easier. You put your big girl panties on or your big boy panties on and say, okay, you know what? I don't want to waste my life force clinging to old bad habits. I understand I procrastinate. I understand why I procrastinate. So now I can change my habits. Okay. But I need to be tough on myself. I need to be kind to myself, but I need to be tough because I want to be a thriver. So it's also the internal script you're using. Okay, what are you saying to yourself? Ah, it's okay. Doesn't really matter. But I can tell you when you're 80 or 90 years old and you look back at your life and you never achieved a lot of the things that you could have achieved, that's not going to be very satisfying. And there's just a bigger picture in it, and it's really important to look back and to see that bigger picture. So just do it. Nike, just do it and push through. Push through. It's uncomfortable. Okay. Nothing grows in your comfort zone. You really need to push through.
Diane's asking, what can I do to help my child who's 11 years old with an unpleasant task? So, and I was just saying gamification really works, like making things games and, trying to put some fun into it. I used to give my daughter like whiteboard pens so that she could write on the windows and the doors when she was doing her times tables or things that she really didn't enjoy, so that it was something that, I'm not really allowed to do this, but at the same time, she was getting done her homework that she didn't want to do. So I think if you can find ways to make it fun, and then the other thing is just bribery and corruption. I mean, you just need to put that reward at the end of it. So,
Positive reinforcement is really, really helpful.
Mhm,
That does.
mhm.
Any more questions? So procrastination is a real thing, but it can be broken if you understand why you're doing it. Okay, and then find ways to work with yourself to flip it around for yourself. And it's not a big thing. It's take one small step every day because it can become overwhelming if I have to change so much in my life. No, just change one small thing, just 1%, just one small thing tomorrow. Okay. When you don't feel like it, it's like you normally get up and you don't make your bed for the sake of inner strength. You get up and you make your bed immediately. Okay. Because you've overcome that inner resistance. And that's what you want to do. It's like a battery. You want to charge that battery. So when you need to use that battery, you've got it. So it's pushing through in spite of not wanting to.
The accountability one really works for me. I mean, I don't want to go to the gym.
No, you need
So
to-
I go where there's a class and there's other people and there's music, and people are going to be like, I didn't see you last week. Were you away? Yes, I was away under my duvet.
Yeah, so I get a personal trainer who comes here every day. I pay him up front. and I really don't feel like it. But every day he's here, and it's the only way I actually will do the exercise because I'm lazy and I don't feel like exercising. But I've done it now this is going on to week 5, and it really is effective because the doorbell, yeah, here's Dean, 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, and I can't say no, he's already here. So I had to meet myself where I'm at because I know I'm lazy and I don't like to exercise, but I know I need to. Okay, it's good for me. So what can I do and it really does work. I'm accountable. Because of the people pleasing, I won't say, oh, sorry, Dean, I can't do it today. No, he's come all this way out to do exercise with me. How could I ever be so mean and say no? So put those things in your life that can actually work for you in that way. There's no one hard rule. Be flexible in your thinking and say, okay, so what could work? Become like creative. We are creative. Okay. And look for solutions. If one way doesn't work, then find another way. There's so many different ways you can beat and overcome procrastination through the task strategies. Mm.
It's so great. And I mean, Tracy, you've got such great, and the thing that I like about it is that there's a variety of options there. So you can mix and match and really see what works for you or what works for your kids. So that's great. So thanks so much for that. Are there any final questions before we move on?
Will work while doing a task like homework. So it does work. It's for Dylan, for some people, music does because it drowns out that other noise, that other distraction. Um, and a lot of parents will say, well, why does my child listen to music and they're trying to study? Okay, because they're trying to drown out that other noise that keeps them distracted. But again, it's not one size fit all. Everybody's different. But find out what works. And if that works, then do it. Cool. Thank you all for joining
Awesome.
us. And I hope you got a tip or two that can make a difference in your life, and then do it. Just remember, do it. Screw it, just do it.
Cool. Yeah, thanks so much for joining everybody. Next week, Tracy, if you bring up the thing, next week we'll be doing, I'm just frantically, you're not presenting. So I'm just checking our schedule to see what we'll be doing now. Next weekend we're doing organization and the time task management. So be sure to join us next week for that. And again, like I said at the beginning of the session, if you've got any subjects that you'd like to see covered, I mean, please just let us know, and we're very, very happy to accommodate those. And for those of you that are in Johannesburg, we'll be having our first in-person workshop on Saturday, the 15th of March, where we'll be looking at pure parenting neurodiverse or ADHD teens. So if you'd like more information on that, I mean, just drop us a message, but we will be sending out some comments with around that as well. But thank you so much for taking the time to spend some time with us. I'm sorry that I haven't uploaded the videos. I'm not a great techie person, so it's been a learning curve, but we're almost there, and we're going to upload the videos from the previous sessions, and we'll be sharing those with you as well. The in-person session is in Waterfall, which is Midrand. So Midrand Woodmead area Waterfall. They're near the Mall of Africa. So that's where the in-person session will be. So looking forward to seeing you guys all next week. And yeah, if you've got anything that you want to engage with us about, our email address is there on the presentation. Our contact numbers are there, and you can get us through our website as well. But it was lovely spending the evening with you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Tash. Bye. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for joining.